Good morning. This is on State of Florida versus Jamel Demons. Present is Mr. Demons. Mr. Demons, can you hear us?
Yes, sir.
Nobody expected the courtroom to go silent like this. 1 second, reporters were whispering, lawyers were shuffling papers, and cameras were locked onto every movement inside the building. Then suddenly, all eyes turned toward YNW Melly after the judge revealed the date that could decide his entire future. And what happened next instantly shocked everyone watching. According to people inside the courtroom, Melly appeared emotional while looking toward his family before quietly saying words that have now exploded all over social media. I'm coming home. But was this confidence or desperation? Because behind that emotional moment is a case filled with chaos, mystery, leaked interrogations, angry jurors, missing surveillance footage, and accusations that continue dividing the internet. Some people believe Melly is finally about to beat the case and walk free. Others believe prosecutors are now stronger than ever and that this next trial could end everything for him forever. What makes this situation even crazier is that new courtroom details are now raising serious questions about what really happened the night Sockchaser and Juvie lost their lives. From shocking witness testimony to claims of jury manipulation, this story keeps getting deeper the more you look into it. And now, with a brand new lawyer stepping into the spotlight, many believe the next trial could completely change YNW Melly's future forever. The moment YNW Melly walked into that courtroom, you could already feel the tension in the air. Reporters were packed outside the building. Fans were flooding social media with theories, and everybody wanted answers about one thing only: was Melly finally getting closer to freedom, or was this the beginning of the end? But nobody expected the hearing to turn emotional the way it did. As the judge confirmed the new trial timeline, people inside the courtroom noticed Melly looking directly toward his family, sitting in the gallery. Then came the moment that instantly started going viral online. Melly reportedly smiled and quietly said, "I'm coming home." Those 4 words alone completely sent the internet into chaos. Some fans immediately celebrated, believing Melly already knows something the public doesn't. Others believe he's simply trying to stay positive while facing one of the most serious situations of his entire life. Because despite the confidence he showed in court, this case is still surrounded by major controversy, hidden details, and evidence that continues dividing people all across the country. What shocked many people during this hearing wasn't only the release of the new trial information. It was also the fact that YNW Melly officially brought in a new lead attorney to help fight the case moving forward. After months of courtroom battles, mistrial drama, and non-stop internet speculation, Melly's legal team suddenly changed direction in a move that caught a lot of people off guard. His new attorney, Jamie Benjamin, is known for handling serious criminal defense cases and has years of courtroom experience in Florida. The second this news dropped, supporters of Melly started claiming this could completely change the outcome of the retrial. But not everybody agrees. In fact, many people online immediately started questioning why Melly would replace his previous lead attorney after the mistrial. According to critics following the case, they believe the original legal team already managed to accomplish the hardest part, preventing a conviction during the first trial. Some people even argued that the attorneys who were already there had built strong momentum with the jury before everything ended in chaos. So now fans are asking, why switch things up when the pressure is higher than ever? And that's where things start getting complicated. Because according to many people watching the original trial closely, one of the biggest turning points came from an explosive moment involving Melly's defense team during closing arguments. The courtroom reportedly became extremely tense after one attorney passionately challenged the investigation itself, arguing that prosecutors were trying to convince jurors to send somebody to prison for life despite what he described as massive holes in the evidence. That emotional courtroom exchange quickly spread online because of how intense the defense appeared while questioning the entire investigation. The argument focused heavily on something that still has people debating to this day: the original drive-by shooting theory. According to the defense, investigators failed to properly examine nearby surveillance cameras that could have potentially captured critical evidence from the night everything happened. Businesses, intersections, streets, and nearby buildings were all brought up during court discussions. The defense argued that if investigators truly believed a drive-by shooting occurred, why weren't more surrounding cameras checked immediately? Why weren't additional vehicle movements tracked? Why wasn't every possible lead explored before building a case? Those questions immediately sparked huge reactions online, because even people who believe Melly is guilty admitted the argument sounded powerful in front of a jury. Social media exploded with debates, with some users claiming the investigation had major flaws, while others argued the physical evidence still pointed strongly toward Melly and YNW Bortland. And then came another major moment that changed how some people viewed the entire trial. One of Melly's longtime friends testified in court and gave statements that supporters believed helped strengthen Melly's alibi. According to testimony presented during the trial, the witness claimed Melly was back at the house and not actively present during the shooting itself. The witness described moments from inside the home, including people waking up to distressing news about Sockchaser and Juvie. Those emotional details instantly became a huge talking point online because supporters believed it created reasonable doubt about the prosecution's timeline. But prosecutors weren't backing down either. As the trial continued, forensic testimony and ballistics evidence became one of the biggest weapons used against Melly. Investigators argued that the physical evidence inside the vehicle didn't match the story of a random drive-by attack. Experts carefully explained bullet trajectories, shooting angles, and damage patterns inside the Jeep involved in the case. According to testimony presented in court, investigators believe the shots came from inside the vehicle rather than from attackers outside. That revelation completely changed the energy surrounding the trial. Suddenly, the internet became split into two completely different sides. One side believed prosecutors had overwhelming evidence proving the shootings happened inside the car. The other side believed the investigation still left too many unanswered questions and possible inconsistencies. And honestly, one of the wildest parts of this entire situation is how emotional the courtroom became once jurors started deliberating. For days, people waited anxiously for a verdict. Fans gathered online every single night discussing possible outcomes, while media outlets closely followed every update coming from the courthouse. Then everything suddenly collapsed into chaos after the jury failed to reach a unanimous decision. The mistrial instantly shocked the country and completely reset one of the biggest rap-related criminal cases in recent memory. But what happened after the mistrial may have caused even more controversy than the trial itself. Reports soon started spreading online, claiming that most jurors allegedly favored conviction during deliberations. Then rumors surfaced that disagreements inside the jury room became extremely heated. Anonymous statements later added even more drama after claims emerged suggesting one juror strongly resisted convicting Melly and eventually influenced others during discussions. Those reports triggered massive arguments online because nobody could agree on what truly happened behind closed doors. Some people praised the juror for standing firm under pressure. Others accused that juror of intentionally preventing justice. And once social media got involved, the situation became even more toxic. Meanwhile, Melly's supporters celebrated the mistrial like a victory. His mother publicly expressed confidence that her son would eventually come home, while fans flooded the internet claiming prosecutors had already failed once and could fail again. But behind all the celebration was one massive problem prosecutors immediately started preparing for: the retrial. Because unlike the first trial, both sides now know exactly what arguments worked, what evidence created emotional reactions, and which witnesses had the biggest impact on jurors. That means the next courtroom battle could become even more aggressive, emotional, and unpredictable than before. And according to many legal analysts watching closely, prosecutors may already be preparing new strategies that could seriously increase pressure on Melly moving forward, especially after leaked interrogation footage involving YNW Bortland started gaining attention online again. As the retrial preparations started heating up, attention suddenly shifted toward one of the most uncomfortable parts of the entire case: the interrogation footage connected to YNW Bortland. And once clips from those interviews started spreading online again, the internet immediately went into detective mode. People began replaying every answer, every pause, every reaction frame by frame, trying to figure out whether Bortland knew more than he originally admitted. Because according to investigators, the story surrounding the alleged drive-by shooting never fully made sense. During questioning, officers repeatedly pressed Bortland about what happened that night. At first, the conversation sounded calm, but as the interrogation continued, the pressure noticeably increased. Detectives kept asking for details about the supposed shooters, the vehicle movements, the gunfire, and the exact sequence of events. But online viewers immediately noticed something strange. Many of Bortland's answers appeared uncertain, inconsistent, or overly cautious, which only fueled more speculation surrounding the case. One moment in particular became a huge topic online after investigators directly asked him a simple question. If he knew who committed the shooting, would he tell them the truth? Instead of immediately giving a clear answer, Bortland appeared hesitant. That hesitation instantly became one of the most replayed clips connected to the case because viewers started analyzing every tiny detail of his body language and tone. Some people believe his reaction showed fear. Others believe he was simply nervous during a stressful interrogation. But critics of Melly immediately claimed the hesitation suggested investigators were already getting closer to uncovering what truly happened inside that vehicle. And honestly, this is where the case becomes incredibly complicated. Because even after years of investigations, court hearings, and internet debates, people still cannot agree on what the truth actually is. One side believes prosecutors already proved enough through forensic evidence alone. The other side believes there are still too many unanswered questions to convict somebody for life. But investigators continued focusing heavily on the physical evidence found inside the Jeep. During trial testimony, forensic experts carefully explained how bullet trajectories, shell casing locations, and damage patterns inside the vehicle allegedly pointed towards shots being fired from within the car itself. According to testimony presented in court, experts believe the angles of the gunfire were inconsistent with an outside drive-by attack. Prosecutors argued that the evidence suggested somebody sitting inside the Jeep carried out the shootings before an attempt was allegedly made to stage the scene afterward. The courtroom reportedly became extremely quiet as experts walked jurors through diagrams, bullet paths, and reconstruction details piece by piece. This wasn't emotional testimony anymore. This was technical evidence, and prosecutors clearly hoped the science behind the investigation would convince jurors more than emotional arguments from either side. But supporters of Melly still weren't convinced. They pointed to the defense's earlier arguments questioning why surrounding surveillance footage was never fully explored. Others argued that investigators may have focused too heavily on one theory too early in the case. Online debates became nonstop. Every new document, interview clip, or courtroom update instantly exploded across YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter. At the same time, emotions surrounding the victims continued growing stronger. The families of Sockchaser and Juvie remained at the center of heartbreaking courtroom moments throughout the trial. Their parents spoke publicly about grief, confusion, and the pain of losing their sons in such a shocking situation. For many viewers watching from home, those emotional moments completely shifted attention away from internet theories and back toward the human tragedy behind the headlines. One especially emotional moment came when Juvie's father openly admitted that from early on, he personally believed something about the story did not feel right. According to interviews discussed online, he questioned the reactions and behavior of people involved after the shootings occurred. Those comments immediately spread online, and added even more emotional weight to an already explosive case. And the deeper people looked into the situation, the more divided public opinion became. Some fans defended Melly no matter what evidence was presented. They believe he was being unfairly targeted because of his fame, lyrics, and image. Others argued the case had already gone far beyond internet celebrity culture and should now focus purely on evidence and justice for the victims. But then another shocking layer of drama entered the story. Rumors and reports surrounding jury deliberations started making headlines after anonymous claims surfaced online about what allegedly happened behind closed doors during the first trial. According to reports, tensions inside the jury room became intense as jurors struggled to reach a unanimous decision. Anonymous statements later claimed disagreements became emotional, personal, and chaotic during deliberations. Those reports instantly triggered huge online reactions because many people originally believed the jury was heavily leaning toward acquittal. But later claims suggested the opposite may have actually been true. According to anonymous interviews discussed online, the majority of jurors allegedly favored conviction before the deliberations eventually collapsed into a mistrial. Once that information spread, social media completely exploded. Some users accused certain jurors of refusing to consider evidence fairly. Others defended the importance of standing firm when deciding somebody's future. Legal analysts also weighed in, explaining how one holdout juror can completely change the outcome of a major criminal trial. Suddenly, the jury itself became almost as controversial as the evidence presented during court. And while all this chaos was unfolding publicly, prosecutors were already preparing for the retrial behind the scenes. That's what makes the upcoming courtroom battle so important. Unlike the first trial, both sides now understand exactly which arguments connected emotionally with jurors. Prosecutors know which forensic evidence appeared strongest. The defense knows which witnesses helped create doubt. Every mistake from the first trial is now being studied carefully by both teams, which means the next trial could become even more aggressive than before, especially now that Melly's legal team has changed. The addition of a new lead attorney instantly created fresh speculation online. Supporters believe a new strategy could improve Melly's chances significantly. Critics argue changing lawyers this late may signal growing pressure inside the defense camp. Either way, everybody agrees on one thing. The stakes are now higher than ever. Because if prosecutors secure a conviction during the retrial, YNW Melly could potentially spend the rest of his life behind bars. And despite all the theories circulating online, that reality is something nobody close to the case can ignore. Meanwhile, fans continue holding on to every emotional courtroom moment as signs of hope. Videos of Melly smiling toward his family, reacting during hearings, and appearing confident in court continue spreading across social media platforms daily. Supporters believe those moments show somebody who truly believes he will eventually walk free. But prosecutors likely see things very differently. To them, the retrial represents another opportunity to present forensic evidence, witness testimony, and investigative findings before a brand new jury. And this time, both sides already know exactly how emotional, unpredictable, and nationally watched this case has become, which is exactly why the next courtroom showdown may end up becoming even more explosive than the first. Now, with the retrial getting closer, the pressure surrounding YNW Melly is reaching levels nobody could have imagined when this case first started. Every courtroom appearance is now treated like a national headline. Every facial expression gets analyzed online. Every legal update instantly turns into trending discussions across YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter. And the closer this retrial gets, the more people are beginning to realize that this next courtroom battle could completely decide the future of everybody involved. Because unlike before, prosecutors are no longer walking into this situation blindly. They've already seen how the defense attacked the investigation during the first trial. They've already seen which arguments created doubt inside the jury room. They know exactly which emotional moments connected with jurors and which parts of the case failed to fully convince everyone. That means this retrial may look very different from the first one. And according to many people following the case closely, prosecutors are expected to come back even more aggressive, especially when it comes to the forensic evidence. One of the biggest moments during the original trial came from investigators explaining why they believe the shootings could not have happened the way the defense suggested. Experts carefully broke down the bullet trajectories found inside the Jeep, arguing the physical evidence pointed toward gunfire coming from within the vehicle itself. Prosecutors used diagrams, reconstruction analysis, and testimony to support their belief that the crime scene had allegedly been staged afterward to resemble a drive-by shooting. That testimony became one of the strongest weapons used against Melly during the trial. Because while emotional arguments can create doubt, forensic evidence often feels more concrete to jurors. Prosecutors clearly understood that, and many legal analysts believe the retrial could place even greater focus on technical evidence rather than emotional courtroom moments. But the defense is expected to fight back just as hard. Supporters of Melly continue arguing that investigators failed to fully explore every possible lead during the original investigation. Questions surrounding nearby surveillance footage, missing video evidence, and unanswered timeline details are still heavily discussed online even today. Defense supporters believe those unanswered questions could once again create reasonable doubt inside the minds of jurors. And honestly, that's one reason this case continues dominating internet conversations years later. People aren't just debating evidence anymore. They're debating trust. Trust in investigators. Trust in witnesses. Trust in the legal system. Trust in forensic conclusions. Trust in emotional testimony. Everybody watching this case seems to believe a completely different version of what happened that night. Meanwhile, the emotional side of this situation continues getting heavier the longer the case drags on. The families of Sock Chaser and Juvie are still waiting for final answers. Fans of YNW Melly continue hoping he eventually walks free. And Melly himself remains stuck in the middle of one of the most high-profile, rap-related criminal trials in recent history. That emotional pressure became extremely noticeable during recent hearings. Videos showing Melly reacting emotionally inside court quickly spread online, with supporters claiming his confidence proves he believes freedom is coming soon. Others saw something entirely different. A man fully understanding that the next trial could decide whether he spends the rest of his life behind bars. And honestly, both interpretations probably explain why this story has captured so much public attention. Because at its core, this case feels bigger than just another courtroom battle. It involves fame, loyalty, friendships, money, success, jealousy, social media influence, and tragedy all colliding together at once. The deeper people dive into the story, the more complicated everything becomes. Even leaked interrogation clips continue fueling non-stop speculation online. Viewers still replay moments where investigators questioned YNW Bortland about the alleged drive-by story. Detectives repeatedly pushed for specific details, trying to determine whether the explanation fully matched the evidence collected from the scene. Those tense exchanges remain some of the most analyzed footage connected to the case because people continue searching for hidden meanings behind every response. Some viewers believe the interrogation reveals cracks in the original story. Others believe investigators were aggressively pressuring traumatized individuals after a horrifying event. Again, public opinion remains completely divided. But one thing almost everybody agrees on is this: the retrial could become even more intense than the first trial ever was. This time, both legal teams understand the stakes better than before. The defense knows they successfully avoided a conviction once already, which gives supporters hope that lightning could strike twice. Prosecutors know they came incredibly close to securing guilty verdicts the first time around, which likely motivates them even more heading into the retrial. That combination alone guarantees a courtroom showdown filled with pressure, emotion, and non-stop media attention. And then there's the internet factor. Cases like this no longer stay inside courtrooms anymore. Every update becomes content. Every hearing becomes viral clips. Every rumor spreads instantly across social media platforms before official details even fully emerge. Fans, bloggers, streamers, and commentators all continue shaping public opinion daily while the legal process unfolds in real time. For YNW Melly, that means millions of people are constantly watching every move he makes. Some continue supporting him no matter what happens. Others remain convinced prosecutors already prove enough. And many people are simply waiting to see what the retrial ultimately reveals. But regardless of where public opinion stands, one reality remains impossible to ignore. This next trial could permanently change multiple lives forever. For the victims' families, it could finally bring a conclusion after years of pain and uncertainty. For prosecutors, it represents another opportunity to secure justice based on the evidence they believe proves what happened. For Melly and his supporters, it represents one final chance to avoid a life-changing conviction. And that's exactly why the emotional courtroom moment where Melly reportedly looked toward his family and quietly said, "I'm coming home," became so powerful online. To supporters, those words sounded hopeful. To critics, they sounded overconfident. But to everyone watching, they sounded like a reminder that the final chapter of this case has still not been written. Now the entire country waits to see what happens next. So now the question everybody keeps asking is simple. What really happens next for YNW Melly? Will the retrial finally give prosecutors the conviction they've been chasing for years? Or will Melly shock the world and walk out of court a free man? Right now, nobody truly knows. But one thing is certain. This next chapter is going to be bigger, more emotional, and more explosive than anything we've seen so far. From the emotional courtroom moments to the leaked interrogations to the jury controversy and nonstop internet debates, this case has completely taken over social media and divided millions of people across the country. And as the retrial gets closer, the pressure on everybody involved continues getting heavier by the day. But now I want to hear from you. Do you believe YNW Melly is innocent? Or do you think prosecutors already proved enough evidence during the first trial? And do you think his new legal team can actually change the outcome this time around? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because this conversation is far from over. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you subscribe and turn notifications on, because we'll be covering every major update, courtroom reveal, and breaking development connected to this case the second it happens. Trust me, the next few months could completely change everything.